are talking about the abstract writing, scientific writing, under which we are discussing about the abstract writing. So abstracts are the type of mini manuscripts. So now in this session we will be discussing about the type of abstracts. So we have two types of abstracts, one is structured and another is unstructured abstract. So as the term says, structured abstract are structured, that is, they follow a particular structure with subheadings required by journal editor or the conferences. The typical subheadings that we use in abstracts for various submissions are introduction or a background, an objective, methods, results and conclusion. For some journals or conferences, the objective is not a subheading, it is generally included into introduction or background part, but the journal editors or conferences generally specify what kind of headings or subheadings they are looking for while writing an abstract along with the word count that we are considering. So unstructured abstracts are usually carry the same material and sequence, but the subheadings are not included and freedom to allocate the limited space as you wish. So introduction, purpose, methods, results, discussion and conclusion all become the part of unstructured abstracts as well and the structured abstracts. But here we have the freedom to allot different word count to different sections because there is no separate distinction into the headings or the subheadings. We can use this freedom of word count and give more priority if we wish to methodology section or more to the results section. So that all depends, because it is an unstructured abstract and a continuous story is being built up in the abstract. So this is an example of an unstructured abstract where you can see that there are no different subheadings and it is a continuous one paragraph abstract. Introduction, and then we have couple of lines for method section, then we have results section described, and then we have a conclusion section. All the components of an abstract would be there in a structured as well as unstructured abstracts. The only difference is that unstructured abstract does not have the subheadings. So see, this is a structured abstract where we can see the specific subheadings, and also there is a table in the results section which has been included. This is an innovation, or this is a different kind of journal that has allowed to include your results in the subheading part, in the abstract part. So then this is another example of an innovative abstract where we have a graphical results. So this is the type of graphical abstract where we have a picture which is describing the results of the abstract. So there may be the abstracts which are short in length because of the word count, or there may be long abstract. So this is an example which is a short abstract of just 300 words. Here we have an example of a long abstract. So this is an example where in a conference it has allowed that 3 number of figures are possible while writing your results. So this is a long abstract with the permission of inclusion of figures. So these are the kind of abstracts generally which are there in conferences. So the abstract limit is around 750 word with 3 tables or figures. You have a freedom to include tables as well in place of figures. So before I start writing an abstract, what I need to know? Whether the English that is required by the journal or the conference is UK or US English. See, there are very few differences in UK and US English. There are spelling differences in the two languages, although both are English, but there are few differences, like for example color, COLOR is US English and COLOUR is UK English. Favor, so these are few hemoglobin. So there are few examples which are different in UK and US English. So before you start writing, you should check what the conferences are specifying, or if it is not very specified, then you should check where the conference is generally happening, or who is the organizing committee of the conference. For example, ASH is a conference where American Society of Hematology, if it is an American Society of Hematology, even if they don't define which kind of English is used, then US English would be considered as a baseline. Then we go for word or character count. That is very important because conferences would reject the good paper on the basis of excess of word count. If the word limit is 500 words, then stick to 499 rather than moving to 510 words. Some conferences specify the word count, or the other conferences might give you the character count. So you have to check which kind of count is given to you through the conference guideline or the journal guideline. This is important because if the character count is given to you and you have to maintain that, then you have to select some kind of abbreviations in your abstract so that you can balance your character count. For example, if you are writing about this patient, this patient is like, patient itself is 7 characters, but if you are getting short of character count and you want to include more results, then in case of patients you can use PT. That is not a standard abbreviation, but sometimes you have to use such kind of abbreviations in your abstract so that you can meet the character count limit. Because if word count was given, then patient or PT both would be one word, so it would not have affected. But if you are limited on character count, then you have to choose sometimes such kind of non-standard abbreviations. Then author details, you have to check how many authors are allowed, how to write the author details. Sometimes they want surname first and then the initials, or sometimes they require that initials should be written at the first and then the surname. Some conferences look for your affiliations along with the author details. Some would require that affiliations should be entered at the last. So that all depends upon the guidelines what the conferences are allowing you. Then about the tables and figures. How many tables, how many figures, if at all they are allowed in the abstract, it should be defined. And if the table and the figure number is 3, then it should be like 3. It should not be 4, 2 tables and 2 figures, because we are touching less than 3. So that is not the case. Every time the number is combined number. So you should not go beyond the limit of the guidelines. Then the structure of the abstract, as we discussed, it should be according to the guidelines, whether it is the conference or the journal is looking for a structured abstract or a unstructured abstract. Use of abbreviations, some conferences are very strict in using the abbreviations in the abstract. Generally we try to avoid the abbreviations in the abstract, but if at all it has been used, then it should be defined at the first place when it has been used. For example, that we discussed earlier, in case of patients we are using PT, then at the first usage it should be defined completely so that in the rest of the body it can be used. Same is the case of, for example, chronic myeloid leukemia, CML. Then if CML has been used or introduced first in the title, then in the abstract you can use, but try to stick to the fewer number of abbreviations in the abstract if at all it is required. So abstract category, what is the category of the subject where your abstract is falling. You should be very specific on that, because if you are fitting your abstract in a different category with without the subject matter existing, then the conferences would reject the abstract. Any restriction on the type of abstract allowed, like for example, trials in progress. Some conferences don't allow the submission of trials which are still in progress and you don't have any results to show, because in trials in progress has only introduction and methodology section, because trials are still going on. So you have to check. Further, some conferences allowed encore abstracts. What do you mean by encore abstract? That similar results has been published in another conference. Now we want to present that in a different conference, because see, for example, we have demonstrated our results in an European conference. Now we want to show the similar results in an American conference, because the audience would be different, right? So some conferences do allow you to submit the encore abstract, but some do not. So you have to check that before starting. Then funding statement. Funding statements are important to show that who has sponsored this particular study or research for which you are submitting an abstract. So some conferences want the funding statement to be part of your abstract, and some require it at the bottom, at the last of the abstract, but not the body of the abstract. Depend on the guidelines that the journal or the congress has given to you on their website for the specific requirements before you actually deep dives and start writing. So getting it right the first time, the practical hints. Make the abstract concise and easy to read. So there are few points which, if kept in mind, can help you in writing the abstracts and get it done in the shortest time. Use of active voice rather than passive voice. I did this, we did this, rather than this was done by us, yeah, or this was done by me. So you should use the active voice, because the research was accomplished by you. Use short but complete sentences. For scientific writing, this is a general rule for each and every type of publication you are writing. The sentences should be short, but it should be complete in itself. Don't omit articles or other little words to adjust the word limit. If the article is required, then write it. Don't avoid articles while writing just to meet the word limit, because removing the articles loses the readability, and thus we lose our audience in between the content. So it is very important that the complete sentence should be there with all the required articles into it. Use structured format to draft the abstract. At least to draft the abstract, use the structured format. If the requirement of the conference or the journal is unstructured abstract, you can remove the subheadings at the later stage, at the finalization stage, but at the draft stage, at the initial stage, you should use the structured format, because this will help you keep a check on the word count. In the unstructured format, you will keep writing about the introduction and background, and then ultimately when you reach at the results section, you will get to know that I don't have the word limit, and then you will find it harder to remove the content which has already been written. So use the structured format, it will help you. Okay, now only 2 lines I had to contribute. I have contributed to introduction section. Now I should move to the next section, that is the method section. Do not refer in the abstract to information that is not in the document. That is a very important point, that there should be no information in the abstract which is not part of the document. So whatever results you have discussed or you have intended to discuss in the complete article or the rest of the document should only be the part of the abstract, right? Don't repeat any information. If you have already included anything, then don't repeat this information. For example, if you have written in your objective section that this randomized double-blind control trial was conducted to compare drug A versus drug B, then in method section you don't have to write it again that this was a randomized double-blind double-blind study. This you have already written in your objective section. So don't repeat any information because already you are limited on a word count. Further, because the text is too small, like just 250 to 300 words, repeated information will lose connectivity with your audience. Organize the information in a way that will be useful to the reader. The flow of the information that you are giving through your abstract should be like a story. Introduction, in which you identify the gap in the already done researches, then your objectives, then with the aim that you are trying to fill that gap that is already existing in the literature, and to meet that objective we are undertaking these methods. Through these methods we are reaching to these results, and these results indicate this conclusion. So this is a flow, how we want to read this information and how we want to give this information to our reader. Both the things are very important. So the flow should be appropriate. Use non-evaluative language. You have done just a minuscule of a research. You cannot conclude on that result that this should be done. For example, if we are comparing drug A versus drug B in rheumatoid arthritis, you can't conclusively say that drug A should be used for treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. You can just say that drug A has shown better efficacy compared to drug B. So see if you can differentiate between the two languages I just used. Drug A should be used for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis versus drug A showed better efficacy compared to drug B. So these two different type of languages. So you should use type B languages and report instead of comment upon your findings. You just have to report what you have found, not commenting on the findings. That is very important point you have to consider, because once we do the research we think that because I have done this research I can conclude it, I can comment on these findings. No, you can't do that. You have to be just writing what you have found. Do not refer to in the abstract to the information that is not in the document. Again, this has been highlighted because you have to take care of these things. So now, anatomy of an abstract. If we bisect the abstract, we get 4 different quadrants. Why did I do this study? This I will tell through my background and objectives section of the abstract. How did I do this study? This is through methodology section. What did I find? The study results section. What do my findings mean? The study conclusion section. So these are the 4 parts of an abstract. Through these 4 quadrants, you are providing all the information that is required to be included into an abstract. Why, how, what, and what do my findings mean? So these 4 things, along with the title, authors and affiliations, and the keywords, would make your abstract. And if you have included all these sections and maintained all the guideline requirements of an conference abstract, then this will increase your chances of submission, chances of acceptance into a conference. The point is that the results should be relevant to the conference subject. So that is a technical aspect. On the writing aspect, you have to take care of these points. So now we have understood what we need to consider or what we need to think before we start writing. Now we can start actually writing. So this is about the title, how the title should be. It can be an indicative title or declarative title. So you will ask, what is indicative title? Indicative title is give the subject matter or the purpose only. It's telling you that we have done this. For example, the randomized control trial to compare drug A versus drug B in rheumatoid arthritis. This is an indicative trial, indicative title, where we are just indicating what we are going to do or what we have done. Declarative titles. These are the titles which are informative and give the conclusion. Drug A had better efficacy compared to drug B in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. This is a kind of declarative title where you are getting to understand what the result conclusions are, what the study concluded or what the study results found. Right? You are giving an information to your audience. So if you are writing an abstract where the research is still undergoing, you can just give the indicative trials. But if you have already achieved the study results, then it is better to give the declarative titles. The title should accurately reflect the study. There should be no misinformation associated with it, and within the word limit, whatever is possible, you should inform your audience about the study. It might specify the scope of the study and the study design. It should have the study design, a randomized control trial, for example. This type of study design where we are telling to our audience that it is a randomized control trial. State the subject of the paper, not the results. We are just giving a broad information, not the actual results. For example, in case of declarative title that we discussed just now, that drug A was superior to drug B in terms of efficacy, but we are not telling that what are the results in numbers. We are not telling that drug A increased the overall survival by 5 months compared to drug B in the treatment of patients with rheumatoid arthritis. We are not telling about the results, we are just indicating the overall conclusion. Ideally, the title should be around 10 to 20 words long, not more than that. In terms of lines, it should be 2 lines or maximum. Maximum is 3 lines, but it should be 2 lines long. Avoid abbreviations and acronyms in the title. Title should be complete in itself and should not have any abbreviations and acronyms. See, again you will ask why we should avoid abbreviations and acronyms in an abstract or in the title. Is that acronyms and abbreviations in general lose the connectivity of the reader with the subject. So that is why it is said again and again that abbreviations and acronyms should be avoided. Then we move to the introduction section where we are envisioning your research question. How we have reached to our research question is we are telling through our introduction section of the abstract or the complete manuscript. In the abstract, you just use 1 to 2 sentences explaining the background of your research and the research question or purpose and scope of the study. So why did you undertake this study? This is important, where you can tell about the gap analysis, how you reach to your study question, and once you reach to the study question, what is your detailed study question, what you evaluated or assessed or investigated. This we generally write using words we investigated. The study was conducted to evaluate, to investigate, to assess. So these are the types of words that we generally use to explain about the study objective. The research question should be stated concisely, coherently and very clearly. The objective of the study can be mentioned here if not stated separately. See, as I told earlier also, that either you can use another subheading of objective, or you can make the study research question as a part of your background or introduction section. So through this you will be telling the unmet need and what you are trying to fulfill through your research. Then we reach the method section, documenting your research steps. So how you conducted your research study or your research, or what are the methods you employed to answer your research question is defined in the method section. So method section generally lasts for 2 to 3 sentences describing the research method used to obtain the results, the techniques used to conduct the study, the patient's inclusion exclusion criteria, the study design, the time frame, the study duration, the treatment details, any equipment you have used. Such type of details you have to tell in your method section. Because the abstract is limited with the words, so you have to choose how to compile all this information in just 2 to 3 sentences of the abstract. But you need to give all these things into your method section. These are inevitable components of the method section, even in an abstract. So describe what are the primary and secondary outcomes of your study. Provide as much information as is necessary to understand the study and results. You have to make a connection, an appropriate flow from objective section to result section through the method section. So you have to specify the information which is relevant, which is important to connect the objective section with the result section by including what are your main or primary outcomes of the study are, along with the little detail on secondary outcomes. Thank you for now. For the next session, we will be covering the rest of the parts of the abstract writing. Thank you.